All right, let's dive in. I've got a really fascinating story for you today. One that asks this huge question. What does freedom even mean in a world that's, well, perfect? A world with zero crime. We're going to explore the world of The Last Detective. I mean, just try to wrap your head around that for a second. 17 years. An entire generation growing up with perfect peace. No one's stealing your wallet, no one's getting hurt. There's no murder. It's a world of absolute total safety. The big question is, of course, how? Well, here's how. It's all thanks to something called the system. And you gotta understand, this isn't some supercomputer in a basement or some government agency. It's described as a condition, like the air you breathe. It's just everywhere. It's always watching. And it's so advanced it can predict a crime before it even happens, and it just stops it. Poof. So crime isn't just illegal, it's physically impossible. So you can imagine, in this perfect, safe utopia, a lot of jobs just disappeared. And the big one? The detective. Our whole story centers on this woman, Detective Krin. She's basically a relic, what they call a residual function. She works in a department that handles stuff the world has just forgotten how to deal with. And get this, for 17 years, she's been a detective with no cases. Nothing. Can you even imagine that kind of quiet? That level of stillness? She's an absolute expert in a field that just doesn't exist anymore. And then it happens. Just a normal Tuesday. After all those years of total silence, her terminal lights up, and it flashes a single word. A word she hasn't seen since, well, since before the system. Homicide. Just think about that. Homicide. In a world where that word is basically an ancient myth. In a reality where it's supposed to be impossible. So how? I mean, what in the world could the all-seeing, all-knowing system have missed? Active. The impossible is no longer impossible. And just like that, the last detective, this woman who's basically been an institutional appendix, is suddenly the most important person on the planet. Okay, so let's get into what the system actually found. So, the system spits out all the facts. It's got the victim, Maren Delast, an archival curator. It knows the method, a very precise puncture wound straight to the heart. It even identified the perpetrator, instantly. But here's the kicker. This is the whole reason they called Krin. The system knows exactly what happened, but has absolutely, positively no clue why. And this is the official log from the system itself. I mean, this is the godlike AI that runs the entire world, and it's basically throwing its hands up. It says the action is, and this is a quote, outside predictive parameters. And then it recommends human interpretive consultation. In other words, it's stumped. It needs a person. It needs the last detective. So Krin starts digging, and what she finds is just incredible. The perpetrator, this woman named Solis, and the victim, Maren, they weren't enemies at all. They were collaborators. You see, Solis was a composer who used her music to protest what she called the world's false peace. And Maren? He was an archivist who took care of the records of humanity's, well, our messy, violent past. And they had a shared mission to prove that human will, the choice to do anything, even the unthinkable, still existed. Yeah, they had this term for their world. They called it the cage world. And it's such a powerful idea. Imagine a cage that's built to the exact dimensions of your body. It's so comfortable, so perfectly designed, you don't even realize you're in a cage. You just think that's the whole world. It's a pretty chilling metaphor, right? For any kind of control that's so total, you don't even see it. So how in the world did they pull this off? How do you plan an impossible crime? Well, they used the one place the system couldn't reach, what they called the skull room. That's their secret weapon. It's the private, internal space inside your own head. The system can track your every move, read your vitals, but it can't get in there. It can't read your actual thoughts. It can't map your consciousness. Solis had this really beautiful way of describing it. She said it's like there's a city inside every person. The system can watch the city walls, it can see who goes in and out, but it can't go inside the buildings. It can't see what's happening behind closed doors. Which really makes you think, doesn't it? What can grow in a place that no one can see? In that totally private, unmonitored space in your mind? For Solis and Maren, what grew there was a plan, a rebellion that was born in complete secrecy. And this is where Krin has her big breakthrough. She finally understands this wasn't a murder, not in any way we would recognize. Solis called it a compositional act. It was like a piece of performance art. It was designed to send a message. The details she uncovers are just stunning. Maren wasn't a victim at all. He was a co-author. The two of them had spent 11 years building this shared language, this deep understanding, and for 3 of those years, inside their skull rooms, they planned this thing together. He chose to become the very last entry in his own archive. Even the way his body was found, it was a deliberate pose, a final statement.
So what do you do with that? As a detective, what do you do with a consensual crime that was never supposed to happen? Krin's recommendation is, well, it's revolutionary. She says, step 1, record the truth, what this act really meant. Step 2, acknowledge that both Maren and Solis chose this. And step 3, let Solis go. Because what this whole case proves is that there's a fundamental flaw in this perfect world. They call it the gap. It's that distance between the external world that the system can see and our internal reality. And it's not a bug that can be patched. It's a structural limit. It's the space where our freedom, our will, actually lives. And that brings us right back to that cage metaphor. How do you know you're in a cage if you can't see the bars? The only way is to press against them. And that's what this was all about. Solis and Maren's act, it wasn't about murder. It was about pushing against the invisible walls of their perfect world just to feel them, just to prove that those walls and their own freedom to push were still there. So the story leaves us with this final, really provocative question. It's not just about their world, it's about ours. If a cage is comfortable enough, do you even notice you're in it? In our own lives, what invisible bars might we just be failing to see? It's a lot to think about. Thanks for diving into this one with me.